As we move forward into this next video, we are going to start constructing a little level and setting up our basic lighting. Then, from all the various elements we imported into our project, we will start to lay out a basic level. Okay, let's get started by creating a new blank level. To do that, let's navigate to our root content folder in the content browser. Now, let's create a new folder by right-clicking and selecting New Folder. Now let's rename that folder to Levels, and let's open it up. Okay, great. Now, levels are effectively the container for a scene we want to make. The average project will consist of multiple levels, but must have at least one. It is within a level that our assets, lights, effects, sounds, and all other asset types will live. Let's go ahead and create our first level. Right-click and under the Create section, choose Level. Let's rename it to My First Level. Okay, great. Now let's double-click it and open it up. If prompted, choose to save or discard your level, whatever you see fit. Okay, great. Now you should be looking at a scene that is 100% blank. Now let's go ahead and use UE4's context-sensitive search to find SM_EXO_bridge and drag one of the floor tile assets into the level. Now, there are things you may notice when you do this. First, that upon dropping the asset into the level, nothing visually happened. And secondly, that your world outliner seems to have added the asset. Curious, huh? Why, if it is in the outliner, do we not actually see it? Well, UE4 is much like the real world. It tries to make sure that all the math works as naturally as possible, and it does this by using physically based materials. As with the real world, without light, there can be nothing seen. Our eyes work entirely off reflected light, and so does UE4. Therefore, if we want to see anything, we need to have a source of light. It's an important concept we will always need to consider, especially as scenes and their lighting become more complex. Okay, so to add our first light, let's go ahead and drop a simple directional light into the scene. We can find the directional light in the Lights section of the Mode panel. Once found, just drag it into your scene. You should now be able to see that little tile sitting there. Okay, so when we dragged in the tile, it may have been placed anywhere in our scene, as we have yet to give it a true position. We can easily do this by using the Details panel and typing in 0 tab 0 tab 0 and pressing the return in the location vector inputs. We can also use the F key to focus the viewport since it is probably moved out of the view somewhat. Let's also select our directional light and set it to something like 0, 0, 100. This way it'll be centered on our scene but raised off the floor a little bit. In the top right of our viewport, let's go ahead and set snapping to more closely match the size of our tiles and make it a little easier for us to quickly lay out a floor. In the drop-down panel, let's select a snap of 100 to make it a bit easier to line up our tiles. Great. Okay, now let's go ahead and hold the Alt key while dragging the tile with the Move tool. Notice that it makes a duplicate of the tile. Let's go ahead and drag out a total of 5 for our first row. Cool. So now we know how to duplicate assets in our level rather quickly. Notice that these duplicates are auto-populated in our outliner as well. Since our floor should still be a bit bigger, let's go ahead and select all 5 in the outliner. Now let's repeat our Alt-drag operation to duplicate all the selected tiles quickly another 5 times. We should now have a 25 square floor plan. So now we have a little floor we can work with. Let's go ahead and give our level its first playtest. In the top ribbon panel, let's select the play button. When we do so, our character will be spawned, and depending on where in our level your camera is, you will either land on the tiles or fall endlessly through the level. We have found our first bug. To fix this rather simple bug, we simply need a player start. We can find one of those in the Modes panel. Let's type in Start in the Modes panel search and drag the player start to our game. While we are at it, let's set the position to 0, 0, 200 in the Details panel. Great. Now our character should begin right in the center of our tiles. Let's give it another test. Awesome. Now we're getting somewhere. Now, having a pure black background is cool, I guess, but I'm betting a bit of a sky might be even better. Let's now add our next lighting component, atmospheric fog. It too can be found in the Modes panel by searching for fog. Let's go ahead and drag it in and set its position to 0, 0, 300. Perfect. Now we get a nice simple horizon and some soft haze. We can control the fog in the Details panel, and tinkering with it can give us some nice softening effects for distant objects. You may also notice there is an emulated sunspot in the fog. We can attach this fog to a directional light to more accurately represent the sun. Let's go ahead and do that now. First, select our directional light in the Details panel. Then let's search for fog. You should now see atmospheric fog sun light. Let's go ahead and check it on. Immediately, you should see the color of the fog adjust to our skylight's color. If we select our directional light and rotate it, you should also see that the sunspot follows correctly, and it even adjusts accurately as the sun dips towards the horizon. The next item intrinsic to lighting is our reflection capture. Let's add a spherical reflection capture from the Modes menu. Simply search for reflection and you should see it. Now, set its position to 0, 0, 500. Great. Now we just need to get it to capture our scene. To do that, click on the side of the Build panel and drag down to Build Reflection Captures, and then Release. Once complete, you will now have a more believable reflection profile. Okay, great. We have the beginnings of a nice level. At this point, you should be more comfortable moving around your scene, and placing and positioning assets should start to feel natural. Let's now take some time to play with the content and add some additional assets to our scene. There are a ton of assets buried in this project to help your scene come to life, and an easy way to quickly locate them is using filtering. For example, we know we are going to want to find all the static meshes we can place in our level. By using a filter, we can quickly accomplish this. First, let's clear our content search, then under Filters, enable the static mesh. Notice the new filter button available right below the content search. This allows you to quickly enable and disable that filter. So when enabled, we can now see every static mesh in our project in one easy-to-review list. Super useful, huh? Okay, so now that we can see all the placeable meshes in our scene, go ahead and start dragging some of the assets into your scene and create something you are happy with. It shouldn't take long to start to create something rather cool. To give you an idea what is possible in the kit you now have at your disposal, this is where I took my level to. But I did give myself a nice walled area to work with, and using the assets in the list, you should be able to do something similar. Don't feel pressured to make a masterpiece, but do spend some time trying to make something visually interesting. So as we move deeper into the lighting, we have something more dynamic than a floor to work with. Have some fun. Spend maybe 15-20 minutes or so. For the scene you see before you, I spent about an hour, but yours does not have to be this complete. Have fun, play, and I will see you when you are ready to continue in the next tutorial.